Neil Lamptey Show. My name's Joey and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Neil.
Hey there.
Moments of the week. Paul, do you want to start us off?
It was possibly the third or fourth time that Johnson Clark Harris did that thing where he put his feet together and then toppled like a tree and just waiting for... And to be fair to the referee, every time he gave a free kick, he did wait a second. He never sort of was instantaneous. So that he gave you time, like he hit the floor, it gave you time to scan where was the referee. You could look at the referee and think, surely this time he's not going to bite. Oh, he's giving us another free kick.
There was, I don't know if either of you two have watched that programme called The Thick of It.
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode or episodes where they have that inquiry and I can't remember the guy's name, Fergus or Fergal, who comes on after Malcolm Tucker, and he says to the inquiry, you do see what's happening. He's spinning you now and you don't even realise it. There was a moment where one of their defenders almost went for that full pelt with the ref, where he was like, you can't you see what's happening here? Yeah. How many times does he have to just fall over his own feet without being touched before you realise that it's not, nobody's fouling him?
He chose his moments fantastically, I thought. It's usually quite annoying when he does it, because you actually want him to do it. But it seemed like he was spot on with his choices yesterday. It felt like every time he went down, like, yeah, that's probably a good time to go down. And he's a master at it, isn't he?
He's brilliant.
Really clever.
It's the other game where it really stood out was that Mansfield away game that we've talked about ad infinitum for a number of different reasons. But we really desperately needed the play to be cut up, and he did a fantastic job of just falling over whenever. But there's so many times where it either isn't warranted or he doesn't do a good job of it. But on Saturday I thought he was absolute supreme. It was a
masterclass, wasn't it?
It was really fantastic. And it was a rare occasion where watching it on TV made it better, because you really got... Neil, I take it, did you watch it on TV as well?
Yeah, TV.
Did you not find that it was unusual how much you could hear?
It was like they're mic'd up.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that you could hear, so you could hear a lot of exactly how exasperated
they were.
It was really fabulous. Neil, your moment of the week.
It's also JCH related. When he got booked, when he just stuck his arm out and punched the ball away, like, that was just a brilliant moment. It's like playground bastardry. Just like, he was like, I'm going to get booked at this moment, and he just stood there waiting, and you knew what was going to happen. As soon as the ball came anywhere near him, he was going to like knock it away. But he didn't just knock it away; he like punched it full pelt away from the player, and it's just like, yeah, he was. Didn't Robin say something last week about he's at his best when he's angry? Yeah. He did seem quite angry yesterday, and that was just the sort of final moment of him, saying, "I'm pissed off today," just punching the ball away.
I doubt there's a moment in JCH's life when he wasn't angry. He doesn't look like the sort of man who's calm until he gets angry. He's like the sort of man who's angry until he gets slightly calm.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. Him abort. It was, like you say, it was so brazen. There was no attempt to make it look like anything else, was it? He just threw the ball on and he just punched it straight back into the crowd.
I feel like there needs to be like a different punishment for that sort of level of. Just because it's just like he's like, oh, I want a yellow card now, and he just. You're like, oh, it's not a punishment, is it? Because it is what you're actually giving him what he wants.
Yeah. I thought there was a lot of reasons that in the second half, especially the game on Saturday, was really good fun to watch, mainly for non-footballing reasons. I was going to go for the Johnson Clark Harris punch ball incident, which was just classic. Instead, I'm going to go for another piece of sublime indiscipline, which was Jordan Shipley, who looked like he'd been told before kickoff that if you throw your hands in the air immediately after fouling someone, they can't give you a second yellow card. Just spent maybe 60 or 70 minutes running around kicking people and then just putting his hands up in the air and being like, that didn't happen. Reminded me a little bit of when Vincelow tapped that goal in against Burton and then looked at the line and was like, I actually didn't even do anything. He'd be like, well, I think the lady doth protest too much. I actually thought it was a miracle that Shipley stayed on the pitch yesterday. Because there was nothing that was... I didn't think there was anything bad, but the sheer number of fouls that he gave away on a yellow card, it was really something, weren't it? Like I say, I quite enjoyed the game on Saturday, but like I say, I think it was more for non-footballing reasons. Paul, you travelled all the way down, didn't you?
Oh yes, I went to Oxford, and we had a big debate beforehand when we saw the team, whether what formation we were going to play, and we played 4-4-2, which was nice. And then the first half happened, and Junior Brown was trying his best to. That one foul was amazing. It was right in front.
Yes.
I mean, it was how he did.
Explain what happened for those people that didn't see it, and also try and have a guess what might have been going through his head.
Oh, I think it was Marcus Brown, wasn't it? The guy who was on loan from. And basically, he let the ball sort of go. Ball got played into him. He sort of either touched it or let the ball go past him, and then went to run up the line. And before he had a chance to move his feet, Junior Brown was just flying through, sort of knee high. And you were like, this is just really strange. And he had a bit of an odd game anyway, Junior Brown. Like the first 20 minutes, it was just what was going through his mind, I think, was just don't make another mistake. Oh, okay, I've made another mistake. Just don't make another. Oh, I've made another mistake. Because I think it was just after that, he gave away another free kick and then stood there and protested to the referee while the Oxford winger was just running down the wing away from him. And then he pulled it back and the lad hit the bar. And you were like, this is worrying because he's been awful. And then in front of him you had Jordan Shipley, who, as you said, got booked quite soon afterwards. And I think this is one of the things that baffled me most about yesterday's game. Oxford have flying wingers. They were up against two players who play in front of each other who were both on a yellow card. And after about 20 minutes, they just didn't run our defence at all. They didn't make. I know you were saying that Shipley gave away a lot of niggly fouls, but none of them were actually.
No, they weren't. They weren't yellow cards on their own, were they? If he'd have gone, it would have been for an accumulation of reasonably cynical fouls. But he didn't, like you say, they didn't test him in the way that you would have done, knowing that both of them were on yellows.
Yeah, especially the way they both gave away yellow cards for doing pretty cynical things.
Yeah, well, not even stupid, like really deliberate things. Sorry.
Yeah, and you were like, so I mean, Oxford. First half, Oxford did what Cole Robinson teams do. And it's like one of those things where it's like, we play football the right way. And it's like, yeah, there is right way, wrong way. If your centre-back is playing more passes to your goalkeeper than your midfielder are playing to your striker, I don't care if it's the right way or the wrong way. It's just a dull way to play football. You can have all the possession in the world, but if 90% of the possession is the defenders passing it to each other, and because we played 4-4-2, it was like we're playing two banks of four. We can deal with this. We can deal with you passing around because it's so slow and so you don't have the players to break teams down because it's so methodical. The only way you're going to break us down is if you do something which is more direct. And in the second half, they create a couple of chances by basically punting the ball up and our defenders being hopeless. And you were like, why are you doing this? And the first half went around where they might have had another chance. We had one where Grimmer played the ball over and Luke Thomas ran through. And obviously he was thinking about other things because he didn't finish that chance.
Should have put it across, I thought. I thought the ball into the middle to just roll it across goal and JCH was flying in.
I think if he's got a chance to score...
He looks a player very much looking to make a name for himself, which I don't think is too bad a thing, is it? But that was clearly the wrong decision to make in that instance.
I mean, but by all accounts from today, I don't think he's that bothered about sharing with his teammates. So...
What do you mean?
Oh, we're not going into this here. All I'd say is Luke Thomas may have...
You brought it up.
Yeah, I did, but I assume that you've just been following the story.
No.
I don't know.
Basically, when he's been having away games with his friends, he's not just been having an away day with his friends.
It's just rude. It's just a rude story.
It's a rude thing. Basically, him and one of his... When Derby have been playing away games, he's been going on the internet, finding ladies who will like to spend a bit of time with a potential future England footballer.
Okay.
While he's... As opposed to spending time with his girlfriend. So, anyway...
Isn't he 20?
So, yeah, he probably should have... Pardon?
Isn't he 20? I always wonder why boys like that at 20 who are future England hopefuls or whatever, why bother having a girlfriend if you're going to do that?
I think that's the thing. I think you either don't have a girlfriend and you can do what the hell you at any age of life. To be honest,
Yeah.
If you're Boris Johnson, like I don't care. If you're and I don't really care about
it just
this
seems like
either.
a lot of extra hassle.
As someone who has 3 women in his life with 2 daughters and a wife, I can't imagine having a 4th. I can't imagine how much more hard work that would be. Anyway, so yeah, he didn't pass to Johnson Clark Harris. He probably should have done better with it. I think this is where it comes to the fact that I didn't think Lewis Thomas had his best game. I think 4-4 playing on the right wing of a 4-4-2. I think sometimes you might need to use your right foot, and it was one of those where if he'd have had some sort of right foot, it probably would have been useful because he took too long to take the chance. If he's right footed, he takes that a lot earlier. By the time he'd actually got around to getting his body in the shape to take it with his left foot, he didn't have this room to actually make the chance. And I think that might be the reason he didn't square it, because again, I think if he'd have squared it, he'd have had to use his right foot. But it was a good ball by Grimmer, and we probably should have done better. And then the other one was a ball through to Conor Chaplin, who shot the ball out of the air and then sort of didn't quite have the chance again to have a shot away. But if you watch, I don't know, the problem is if you watch it live, opposed to watching on TV, you get to see more of what's going on. Once I would say about Conor Chaplin, I'm going to get in trouble with the people who've got the wrong number on the back of the shirt. Chaplin he just looks eager all the time. That's one thing he's got, is this just desire to make runs. So when we have a throw in, he's sprinting away, trying to create space. He's trying to make things happen. He's very energetic and he's very direct and he's very forward thinking. And in the first half, he was just on a different level to everyone else on the pitch in terms of what he was trying to do, his actual approach to the game. Because the first half was just methodical. It was pretty dull. There wasn't a lot going on from either side. We were very sloppy when we got the chance to use the ball. And Oxford were just a team who overplay it, and they just don't have the quality to break teams down. Second half, we looked at, the other thing I'd say in the first half, one of the questions asked quite a few times about JCH. In the first half, I don't think he was poor, I just don't think he was involved. And one of the problems we had is Doyle was getting a lot of the ball, and Doyle just kept clipping these sort of 30-yard balls for him to run onto. It's just like, this isn't what JCH needs. It's not what this game needs. You need to do something better than that. The only other person I'd like to mention in the first half was Bayliss, who did some really good stuff. Like at one point in the first half, he made his challenge. It was a really good challenge. The ball bounced 5 yards away, and then he sort of saw him to switch off, and you were like,
he was waiting for someone else, weren't he? Yeah, it was weird. I remember that happening as well. It's kind of a couple of other people were looking at the ball, and it's like someone's got to take control of it, and it didn't really look well on Bayliss, but I think there were a couple of other people who want to be involved.
Yeah, and I think it's just that's something he's got to learn. It's basically, if you win the ball, just get the ball and carry on. Yeah. It's like, don't wait for someone else to take responsibility. You're there. You're in the critical part of the pitch. You take responsibility. So the first half, 0-0 was probably a fair result because neither team was particularly any good. It wasn't particularly one for the. You looked on Twitter and it's like, you think you've got problems as a Man United fan? Turn over to watch Oxford versus Coventry, and you're like, yeah, but it is League One. We haven't spent £86 million on Pogba or anything. It's like the quality's not going to be as good. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. It's not really an interesting game to watch. Second half, I thought we played a lot better in terms of we got JCH a lot more in the ball. Shipley had one of those games where he didn't actually do anything that right, but because he was there doing things, it actually made him difficult to play against because he was involved. Doyle, again, I didn't think was particularly that impressive. I think his use of the ball is getting potentially worse, and a couple of times he just either gave the ball away softly or he just dealt on it too long. And then we scored again to be fair to Doyle, it was a good clip, little free ball to Chaplin, who again was sort of just on. There's a free kick. Oh, if I do this, I'll stretch teams. He stretched them, ball out to Shipley. Shipley's shot was shit, but it hit a defender, went past the keeper, and we were 1-0 up. And you were like, it's not really against the run of play. It's just not. It's just happened. I think.
Great celebration though. He was well up for that, wasn't it? It's like I have trouble when people celebrate deflected goals, kind of, especially that one which wasn't even on target. It's like it was an absolute beauty of a shot. And Mr. McManus over there is just, I'm not sure.
I have the same issue where people celebrate penalties like it's like the greatest thing you've ever done. It's just sort of, well, I'm proud of you. You scored a penalty, but also you've only scored a penalty. You didn't, if you've won the penalty, done a little bit of skill, and not taking anything away from Chaplin, who he celebrates his first goal for the club. I think you do that, but I also think it's a bit like, chill your beans instead of doing all your sort of wonderful eye brilliant. It's like you've scored a penalty. I'll be really happy when you scored in sort of, if you've done something pretty amazing to score.
Imagine if he scored that. Do you remember the one when it came over the top? He brought it down just over his shoulder,
yes.
and that goes in. That's gorgeous.
If you score that, you can basically do how you like.
Yeah.
Are you saying that he shouldn't have celebrated scoring his first goal for the club?
No, I'm just saying you sort of don't run around like you've done something unbelievably brilliant.
I watched the highlights before we started. He literally just runs to the crowd and jumps up and says, I've scored a goal.
Maybe you read into it. Maybe I read into it more than you did. But
you just hate joy, don't you? You just
no. I mean, go and celebrate with Shipley, who's on the floor in a lot of pain.
That's another funny bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who actually did the more impressive thing and actually won the penalty due to actually being sort of.
So
Shipley.
You think that what should have happened is he should have celebrated by running over to an injured player on the side of the pitch and dragging him up off into the.
Well, Doyle dragged him off the pitch in the first place, so Chaplin could have just dragged him back onto the pitch to celebrate with him. In between the two,
that injury that Shipley incurred was the universe correcting things for the massive amount of luck that Shipley got during the game.
He got more and more injured as time went on. He seemed fine, and then he just 5 minutes later, he's still there on the floor and absolutely agony. It's like, what's going on here? I was a little bit concerned for him. I was like, well, this is getting progressively worse. I mean, someone needs to go and look after him.
In between the two goals, Burge made an absolutely amazing save, which, if you watch it, there's, on the Twitter feed, there's like keeper cam or whatever, and you realise if he'd have just pushed it to the side, the guy had a tap in. So he actually pushed it. Not only did he make a good save, he actually stopped the guy from having a tap in as well. Not to excuse the fact that also they had a corner where he went flapping and they should have probably scored from that. So, Burge had his ups and downs. And then we went 2-0 up. We got the penalty. The woman next to me cried. I can only assume because she was Chaplin's mom, because there was something happened in the second half where they got really excited, like far more excited than anyone else, and it was like, oh, okay, you've been really, but they weren't excited by other things where you were like, oh, okay, you're something to do with Chaplin, and then he scored, and it was like, okay, you're crying, okay, that's
That's nice.
We're all excited, but none of us are that excited, so. That was quite nice.
You've got quite a good eye for that sort of thing, haven't you? Of family members or people in the crowd to do with players. I was still very impressed when we went to Derby away ages ago and you picked out Jordan Henderson's parents.
That's nice. It's a good spot. Did I ever tell you about the time I was at Swindon and it was Joe Cole's first away game, and his wife was there. She did stand out though.
She's stunning.
Yeah, he's one of Paul's number one faves, is she not?
She's just a lovely lady.
But it's still a good spot, Neil. You're absolutely right.
I mean, it was difficult not to spot her. She was right next to me. And, I spent most... No, I'm not going to paint myself as some sort of weird person. I was watching the match a lot.
And then they scored at the obligatory, oh my God, why can't we defend corners? And then it got a bit
touchy. Good corner though, weren't it?
It was a good corner.
I thought his delivery when he came on was really noticeable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really good, I thought.
I mean, if we're going to talk about Oxford for a couple of seconds, I was really impressed with their centre midfielder. Was it Baptiste?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
He just looked... I felt sorry for him because you just got the feeling that if he was in a better team, he'd look even better. But he looked really impressive. I was really impressed with him.
I've got to be a bit careful on this because I've got form. I think Carl Robinson would be my absolute bottom choice of who to have as manager. I despise that thing that you alluded to earlier about, we play football in the right way. It just literally means that he just passes it around aimlessly. I just don't buy it.
Andy Thorne way.
Yeah, totally. Just what's it? Just there's no actual purpose to it. It's what we talk. It's sterile possession, isn't it? And I feel like, actually, I thought Ricky Holmes and Marcus Brown suffered for the fact that there was, like you said earlier, they just wanted releasing earlier and being told, get on the ball, drive forward and do something with it. I felt like they were wasted. I felt like they were overrunning midfield when they really shouldn't have been. Or if he's desperate to pass it around like that, I'm surprised they didn't pack the midfield a little bit more and try and overrun us, but they didn't do that. They, to me, looked like a team who, under a different manager, actually could be quite effective in this league. I quite like Jamie Mackie as well. He probably needs a goal scorer next to him, but they seem to have a lot of players that you thought, actually, you were a lot better than being like 22nd or whatever.
I think I have two issues. I think if they play against other teams who play 4-2-3-1, I think they'll probably be more in the game, because their right back kept travelling with the ball and actually looked like he was quite good at carrying the ball. The problem was he had to carry 10 metres before he was engaged by a player. You get the feeling if you're playing against 4-2-3-1, he can get past his first man, and then he's actually got a bit of and they can actually double team. The other thing I'd say, and I said to you the other day on the WhatsApp, is it was really noticeable in the second half. The difference was just having someone like Bayliss. Bayliss moves the ball really quickly. He actually carries the ball quite well. One thing that I've thought was Oxford's biggest issue, they were just very, very slow at moving the ball. And where as I said, they had a couple of opportunities, the Burge save and other things where they caused a couple of issues in the second half. It was basically when they went long. And Junior Brown didn't have a particularly good game. And when he gave the ball away softly, when they actually turned the ball over high up in our half where we made mistakes, they looked a lot more effective, because they do have quick players, intelligent players in Holmes and Brown and and Henry as well. When they're actually allowed a bit of space, they could look damaging. The problem is, that if they get a goal kick, the keeper's going to roll it to the centre half. The centre half's going to pass it to us, and you can sit and watch them.
Yeah.
And we did in the first half. It's like, you have the ball because you're not hurting us. And it's all goes back to, we didn't play. I thought one of my issues for the whole game is I thought we were quite sloppy again. As much as I thought Chaplin had good moments, I thought his distribution was quite sloppy. And that's not me criticising, like, I've got to find something to criticise. He gave the ball quite a few times in decent positions, but so did everyone else. Yeah. It was just one of those games where my issue in the first half was I felt like Oxford, for the fact I didn't agree with their plan, I thought had a plan. The issue with me for Cov was the fact that when we had moments because we're in League One and we're going to have moments. There didn't seem to be much of an idea of how we're going to achieve those, which is fine against someone like Oxford who is shit. But we still got to accept the fact that we didn't really create many shots. I think our first shot on target might have was in the 55th minute, other than the Luke Thomas one in the first half. We just weren't. We didn't play particularly well. We beat a poor Oxford side. The question is, can we use this as a catalyst now going forward in the next couple of tricky home games? Because the question is we should be able to beat some of the poorer teams in this division. Are we going to get on against the better teams? That's where it's going to be critical in the next couple of weeks. Oh. We didn't play brilliantly. We did get a win. Let's move on now.
That you just said about not having a plan. Just kind of what do you mean by that? So, because I mean, I get that sometimes there's very obviously a plan where it's almost long ball and you can identify as that being a thing, but I still felt like we moved the ball quite well, and we created, and there was opportunities to break, and things were falling our way. I mean,
I thought
if it's not concerted, does that not mean? I just don't quite understand if it has to be a really definitive plan. I've just felt like there was still lots of good play there.
I thought we looked more like we had a plan on Sunday than we had in weeks and weeks and weeks.
Okay, the reason I say that is in the first half, every time the ball, we did have chances, we created chances, but we created chances because basically the game broke down, and then we had the space to play into, which is fine. That's how football works. Sometimes you've got to capitalise on the opposition's mistakes. There were other times where we got the ball, and we know how Johnson Clark Harris wants to play, and we were just kicking the ball forward. It wasn't a case of we're a passing team, we're a direct team. It was just a case of I just want to get rid of this ball. And Doyle was very sort of obvious in this. The other thing is we sometimes just give the ball to Hyam. Hyam and Doyle would pass the ball to each other. and then it would just end up with being, again, floated forward to no one. There didn't seem to be a way of... We didn't seem to be a team that go down the wings and put crosses in. We didn't go down the wings virtually at all.
Although Grimmer looked good.
Grimmer, he did look good, but again, it was sort of... That was for only concerted spells. And when he did that at his best, it's because the game broke down right in front of him. He travelled into it. And that's not... I did think Grimmer had a really good first half, but I didn't think that, what we're trying to do now is release Grimmer on the right wing. It was just like, the game's broken down in his area, and Grimmer's done really well with what's opened up in front of him. And in the second half, it was almost the same with Sterling. Sterling got in the he didn't have as good a game, but the ball was falling to Sterling in space. I didn't think that was a concerted plan. It was just like, that's just how that game broke down. In the second half as well, you can see what Chaplin wants. I didn't think we looked to sort of release him at all. We didn't get the ball down in a dangerous area and actually try and thread a free ball through to him. It was just a case of we were just trying to sort of get the strike partnership. I know it's a new strike partnership. They didn't look like they were working together that well. I thought, whatever we thought, the Rochdale game, I did think we had a plan. The plan was very much a case of we're going to play it through Andrew, and this is how we're going to approach the game. We're going to try and bring the wingers in. Didn't quite work for half an hour. On Sunday, I just saw a team that was sort of, when the game opened up, they've got some good players who can make the opportunities. Like Luke Thomas is really quick, so the game opened up in front of him. There were other times it was just like we made a lot of aimless passes, and not just I've got no time, just I've got time. My decision making isn't very good.
I thought it. Sorry, go on.
No, that was it. I mean, it's just, as I said, for me it was just a case of we beat an Oxford side who aren't very good. That's great, because I think my worry was if we didn't come out of that with a victory, we were going to be in deep trouble. It'll be interesting to see where we go from this. But I don't put this down. I put this down basically in this, like, we won. Let's hope this is the building block for the next couple of weeks and gives us some confidence, more than we've won because we had a genius game plan and it all came to fruition.
So I would say, game plan wise, I think you've got a much better chance of playing Bayliss. I know we were talking about Bayliss' sort of defensive responsibilities and everything last week. I think you've got a much better chance of saying to Bayliss, get out there and run the game, when you've got Shipley on the left side of midfield, because I think Shipley's smart enough to know when to go and when to stay. And I think that all of those fouls actually are probably reflective of the fact that he knew that his job on Sunday was to cover for Bayliss, and he did it constantly. And I think whilst on the WhatsApp group I was taking the piss out of him for not having found a teammate all day and making so many fouls, actually I thought he made sure that they never cut through if Bayliss was out of position or if he tried something or whatever. I thought he did a really good job of that. And I think the game plan on Sunday was, Conor Chaplin can't play up front on his own, so I'm playing two up front. And I think you're right. I think he probably wants Biamu next to him rather than Johnson Clark-Harris, but Biamu's out, and Clark-Harris is probably a better version of that than Bakayoko or Huula by the sounds of it. And actually, away from home, Johnson Clark-Harris drawing all them fouls and being like an absolute bastard, being like a sort of League One Diego Costa. Yeah, I think actually that is a game plan in itself. And I think that you've got Grimmer, who I thought did really, really well in the first half. I thought it was one of the best I've seen him play. He did his little trick early on and it almost worked, where he knocks it one end and goes round the other. I thought he attacked. I think you can afford to have Shipley tucking in and looking after Bayliss if you've got Brown and Grimmer going either side. I thought Chaplin buzzed around and looked for space, and that he having two up front meant that we could try and hit Johnson Clark-Harris, and that Chaplin had got the ability to go and just look for space and try and pick up on something. I felt like it was like a sort of, and I think I always bang on about this when I talk about 4-4-2, but there's a rough idea that 4-4-2 should be two wingers trying to put crosses into a big lad in the middle and then a little man next to him. But it's Leicester, isn't it? Leicester had a sort of defensive wide player who was able to give them cover and shape when they'd got, when they were in possession or out of possession. They'd got Mahrez, who was like a sort of wild card. Okazaki, whose just movement is fabulous and everything. And I don't think you've got to have this symmetry all the time, as long as everything locks together properly. And I thought it did. I don't think we were perfect, and I think a lot of that is about players building relationships. But I can see how goals could be scored in the way that we were playing on Sunday. I quite like it.
Yeah, I find a lot of comfort in individual elements. I think, like you say, it wasn't perfect, and there were moments and there were kind of points, especially in that first half, which I wasn't too sure about, and I agree with Paul on that one. It's sort of, there was a lot of times where there was the Doyle panic, where it was just right, I'm going to get rid of the ball there, and that kind of that hinders everybody around them, because you can't build anything because it's him taking control and smashing it forward. But what I was happy about was lots of the individual elements and how I was kind of seeing players sort of developing. So obviously Grimmer had a really good first half. As bad as their goal was to concede, I thought those two in the middle did really quite well in defence. I thought Bayliss had another sort of quality game in front of the cameras. I think there was lots to be happy with Bayliss, especially in the deep position.
Yeah, I agree.
There's just something about him there, and he's a good player, so you can put him anywhere on the pitch and you notice the quality. But I think we're finally now seeing that he may be young, but central midfield, he still can dominate. And it was actually a really good battle between him and Baptiste, because Baptiste is one of the only people I've seen go head to head with Bayliss and give him a really good game. And there was a point actually where Bayliss went to knock it round him, and Baptiste actually did him and came back, tackled him, and went the other way. And that kind of showed his quality as well, because not many people kind of do that to Bayliss. So yeah, that was good. And also I thought Chaplin, is, because it's only one game really. I mean, you can't really class him coming on the other day. You didn't see too much, but this was one game. It was hit and miss, but there was lots of sort of moments where you looked at him and you thought, actually, you're standing out. Your quality is showing here. Like, just whether it's the first touch, whether it's his calmness, because like I say, it was hit and miss. There were times where he just made a daft pass and it didn't come off, and he was maybe trying something too clever. But then there were times where he was just holding it and waiting and not passing until he was ready or the pass was available to him. And they're the things I like, because I always bang on about sort of capability and just looking at what someone's actually capable of. And I saw lots of really good moments from him where you sort of hope with more game time, more kind of connection with the people around him, that could really become something quite fruitful for us. So it wasn't brilliant, but also, we got the win. We still not really scored a proper goal, but you get the win, and I think there's a lot to be said for maybe some of the confidence that they can get from this, because in reality the players probably don't think of it like that. They feel like they've scored 2 goals, they've performed well in good sort of in quite a few patches during the match, and obviously when the ball hits the net, I'm sure that sort of innate feeling that you have, it doesn't really make any difference whether it's a good goal or a scrappy one. You probably still gain a lot of confidence from it
as well. And it's I think it's one of the reasons that I really like Shipley, is I think he plays into the sorts of things that I would have players doing. You can always trust Shipley to get a shot away, and I just think every so often something's going to bounce in off John Mousinho. I just think, get the shot away, see what happens. You might get a corner, you might get that game. We got, and as well, it's him. The reason that we got that penalty is he was going so hard at the ball that the keeper bottled it. If the keeper would have just gone for the ball, he'd got cleaned out and he'd never give away a penalty. And he didn't quite have the balls to just get wiped out, and so instead he kind of half went for it and ended up taking Shipley instead. And I just think that dynamism. Actually, there's a phenomenal amount to be said for it, isn't there?
He's a strange character, because he seems very unfashionable amongst a lot of fans. Because I mean, people love him because he's Cov lad, or he's Leamington lad. He's local and he gives everything, and he's actually got a lot of end product. He's creating goals, he's scoring goals. For someone who's so young, you can kind of rely on him to put the ball in the net now if he gets an opportunity. And yet, it's just, there's something that you can't put your finger on which makes him an unfashionable choice. And it's hard to see why, because if you're looking at the just end result, you've got a guy here who stood up in the playoffs, performed fantastically well. I mean, when it was needed, him and Bayliss probably our 2 best players in the playoffs last year. And he still, I guess, because you bring in all these new players, there's kind of they're not really names because it's League One, but they're people who you expect to start performing well. It somehow maybe feels odd that Shipley keeps them out of the team, but I think he merits it. I think there's so much that he does for the team, and whether it's the highest of quality or not, it just seems to have, when he's on the pitch, there's a better impact there. Like the whole team seems to click better when he's there, and it's hard to put your finger on, but it's definitely there because it's been 6 months now of Shipley. Whenever he plays, we do really well.
He's unorthodox as well, isn't he? And I don't think people are particularly keen on that. So he's not.
He's not your pure winger, is he?
He's not a winger. Yeah, he's. There's a bit of you that thinks he probably thinks of himself as a central midfielder, and he's not. He's very, very difficult to pigeonhole. And I also wouldn't say that he's got any standout attribute. He's not fantastically adept defensively, and he's not an amazing passer. His dead balls are quite good, but we don't score
good striker
reams.
ball,
we've given that job to Doyle, though, haven't we?
Wow,
what
happened
free
there?
kick expert.
Yeah.
Surely we learned 10 years ago that Doyle isn't the best set piece taker in the world. Like, do we really have to go through this all over again? I think Shipley's better in the 4-4-2, and I think I agree with what he is someone who gives his all, and we discussed it the other week about players sort of, is it better to be involved and have a bad game than not try things? Well, the thing with Shipley is that he will continually give his all. He will try his best, and he will always add something to the team. And both goals are down to him basically, as much as they are to anyone else. I say he got the shot away, but he was also in the box and he was around, and he was also switched on to have the shot, and he made the run for the second goal. And it's I think he deserves a lot of credit. I'm hoping his injury isn't too bad because, again, we don't have a light replacement. If he's not playing, then you got someone like Huula who clearly isn't. He is a winger or in the centre forward playing on the wing. So
I think we credit him quite nicely on here. So we don't make out he's a fantastic player, but actually we do give him credit for the qualities that he does show. I saw someone tweeting yesterday saying, well, he's definitely not the best, but like directly to him, he's definitely not the best, but he tries really hard. And I just think that's the most sort of indirect sort of. It's not even. And then Shipley liked it. And I thought, I'd be a bit pissed off by that actually.
Yeah,
I mean, because he probably, I'm sure he thinks he's a decent footballer. Someone's saying he's not a decent footballer, but he's trying really hard. I mean, I know it was meant, with a lot of sort of. He was trying to give him credit, but it's just a weird sort of Twitter credit, really.
Yeah, Twitter's dangerous for that, isn't it? The main thing with him, and I know that this is probably already clear from what we've said, it's what we've been talking about for a few weeks now. It's much, much more important to have a round peg in a round hole, even if he's... There are I mean, the obvious one, the elephant in the room, is Tony Andrew is a better footballer, isn't he?
Yeah,
but Tony Andrew wouldn't have. That team wouldn't have been improved by replacing him for Jordan Shipley. And I know that's slightly fatuous because you could be like, well, yeah, you could say that about the centre back, and that would still be true or whatever. But do you know what I mean? Is what it is. I just think it was. It felt much more like a team. And the problem is that what do you do with Tony Andrew if that's the case? Then
you just
Roberts is learning, though, isn't he? Sorry,
you have him on the bench, don't you? And that's the thing. It's just. If he's not, it's quite. I know you two aren't really into cricket, but there was an interview with Ed Smith, who's the head selector, and they basically was like, "Well, you've got all these batsmen, these bowlers who can bat." And he was like, "Yeah, but they're our best bowlers. The fact they can bat as well is a bonus." But my philosophy is, what's the best way we can get the best out of our best players, and then we work around that. And the main thing comes out of the Sunday game is it's probably the first time this season where we only really had Luke Thomas out of position. Where he's not a right winger. He's not a right midfielder. He's a right winger in a 4-2-3-1 or whatever. But you could see that right midfield in that sort of role wasn't his best. But we've talked about this last week. We wanted Chaplin to be up front with a striker. He was up front with JCH. I think JCH is better when he's got more people around him. Bayliss looked a lot more comfortable playing in the midfield 4 because he doesn't have as much to cover. And as you say, he's got more defensive options around him. The whole system suited us better. and we've asked for this. We asked for 4-4-2. It was one of our, season's still young. We've had some, it wasn't a great performance, but it was good enough to beat Oxford on the day. The main thing is, it's like, let's keep going now. The issue is, if Shipley's out, I don't think we have anyone ready to replace him on the left wing unless you put Thomas out there.
Jones should be back soon, shouldn't he?
Brown. Well, and I guess but if it's 4-4-2, does Jones? I mean, saying that is, he did. I think he predominantly prefers playing on the right, coming in off the right, doesn't he? But
because last year that's why we had Vincenti on the left, didn't we?
But I guess
I didn't think the formation felt too dissimilar. Did it? The only real change to how they played seemed to be that kind of Chaplin was higher up than Tone would be. But as far as kind of the midfield went, I didn't see Shipley playing any different to how he's played if he's been in kind of the three.
I think it's starting position. I think that
they started a lot deeper.
I think he started a lot deeper and was looking to cover a lot more than he would have done. If you think about the positions that he took up against Notts County in the playoff semi-final first leg, where he was getting drenched in that water, he was occupying the corner flag more often than not. And and I think that. I wish he'd have never been anywhere near that deluge anyway. But I think that compared to this, where he felt like a sort of defender, and I think this is the thing where you're talking about Jones being on the left. I think ideally, what I would like to see is us replicate what we did on Sunday, and ultimately, what would happen is Jones would come in for Thomas. Because I think that's what we were saying about, and I know that I'm going to get kicked in about keep talking about Leicester, but I think if you've got Shipley on one side, you can have Jones on the other side, because if that midfield becomes a 3-man midfield or a sort of 2.5-man midfield, if Shipley stays back when Jones goes forward, you can move fluidly like that, and everything fits. You don't have to just have 2 attacking wide players or 2 defensive wide players. The problem is if Jones comes in for Shipley, then it does possibly become a tad offensive, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but who knows?
I mean, it's. I think at least there is. It feels like that would be the option, though. I think like when because if Thomas continues to play, the main man.
The other thing is Junior Brown, perhaps.
Yeah,
with Mason at left back.
I think I know we pushed for this for years for Ryan Haynes to be a left winger. It always worries me when we got 2. It was a bit like, we'll play Wayne Bridge in front of Ashley Cole, and it's like
Junior Brown was a winger, so he was a winger up until he joined Shrewsbury, I believe.
And they converted him to a left back where he's been at his best. My other issue with Junior Brown is I don't think he deserves a place in the team because he's playing particularly.
He hasn't been
he's not playing well. If he was playing well, then I think it's more of an issue. At the moment, he was lucky not to be sent off, and then he was lucky that Mason was injured, because in the 2 games I've seen him, he's done nothing really to say that to show any of the hype that he's been awarded so far from the Shrewsbury fans. I think it was just his passing was just so bad. Like, wingers sometimes get the better of fullbacks, sometimes putting crosses, sometimes they get fouled. I can accept that. It was just his passing was just atrocious. Should we move on to listener questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
This shouldn't that long.
Just very quickly, before you kick off with those, just to mention that no Dominic this week as he is away. He texted me and said, if you want a succinct version of a preview, Barnsley very much still a championship team, and in all likelihood will be blown away on Saturday, so that'll be something to look forward to.
In the Dom spirit, as always.
Yeah. Let's crack on with listener questions then. Paul, you've got on this week, haven't you?
JCH, basically the fans are split on JCH. Who's right? Is he good or is he crap?
Binary arguments. Go on, Neil.
I think he's got attributes. He can be good. I think much of it is down to his application, kind of how he feels on the day. I think something this season seems to have sort of provoked him, and I think when he's played, he's shown a lot of good qualities. So I feel better about him in the last month than I kind of did coming to the end of last season. I kind of felt he fell away a little bit, but I think there's definitely a player in there.
I would say beauty very much in the eye of the beholder.
I'd say it worries me that we signed 2 other strikers and JCH, and not because JCH is a bad player. It's almost like, well, why did we sign those other 2 players? Yeah, and to be fair, I said I didn't think he was. For me, he wasn't bad in the first half. He just wasn't involved. In the second half, he was involved. I still don't think he's particularly a goal scorer, but if he facilitates Chaplin scoring, it doesn't really matter. We had that discussion last season. Let's move on. Why did we look so shaky every time Oxford whipped in a cross from a set piece, and how do we remedy that within the squad?
Neil?
Good delivery. We looked shaky in the end when that guy was putting in those fantastic balls. I mean, I still thought Dom Heim and Willis were, for large parts, dominant in the air. They won some great headers. The goal was dreadful. It's just, I think, the support from Burge, and I don't quite know what was going on with them. Was anyone in the post?
Well, the main problem is Sterling just completely loses his man, doesn't he?
Yeah, that guy just comes finding a free header off a yard. It's not brilliant.
Yeah, friend of the show, Steve Phelps, says, defenders on the post at corners. Why has this disappeared? Which I don't understand, because everyone drags back every fucking player they've got in the squad to defend corners. So surely just having some... I would always have someone on the post, because I do think they save you probably 5 goals a season. I know it's an arbitrary made-up stat, but I do think they do save you goals.
I know the counter-argument, I just vehemently disagree with it, is that the idea is that effectively, if you've got people on the posts, there's a numerical advantage of their players in the box, and that you effectively give them the option of the better chance of getting an effort away, and that instead you should focus on them never getting the ball in the first place. The problem is that that's such an idealistic concept that if they do get a shot away, there's a much better chance of them then scoring it. I would absolutely put players on the post.
Yeah.
But doesn't that... So sure, the whole point of that argument then is that your opposing team automatically have more players? Because they've got a corner taker, so the person on the post is effectively equal to the corner taker itself. Yeah, so you can't be outnumbered.
Possibly, but I think also there's the consideration, the fact that you can practice set-piece delivery, and I think that you've got a better chance of... I think as the attacking team, you've got the benefit, haven't you? It's an easier situation for you to try and deal with than it is for the defenders, albeit that obviously it's harder to score a goal than it is to not concede. Does that make sense?
Do you think Junior Brown could develop into the new Marcus Hall?
I mean, I don't know what that means.
Does it mean he's going to be here for 10 years? Get a testimonial? And then get it.
I just want a yes or no answer.
I'm going to go for no.
I'll go yes just to be contrarian.
Yeah,
okay, is Kelly the missing piece of our midfield puzzle? I didn't realise we had a midfield puzzle.
We had a missing piece of a midfield puzzle, but yeah, carry
on. Robin's substitutions, when was the last time he changed the game positively with one? Which I think is a bit harsh on Sunday, because we were 2-0 up, so we didn't really need to do anything.
Jordan Ponticelli against Notts County in the league last year, came on and scored.
Okay, there you go, that's answer that one.
I mean, I don't think that was meant to be as literal as that, but there is an example, perhaps. But I agree, I think his substitutions are head-scratching sometimes, aren't they? Yeah.
Why are the club persisting with this ridiculous stewarding in Singer's Corner? It's ruined the atmosphere at home with overzealous ticket checks.
I guess my guess is that they are probably obliged to do it, because I don't think they would care otherwise, would they? And the overzealous thing, we have seen firsthand situations escalating needlessly because of their approach sometimes. So I think that's probably a fair shout.
I think the problem is the people who own the Singers' Corners and act like dickheads haven't helped themselves.
No, they haven't. That's true as well.
However, there probably was a better...
It takes 2 to tango sometimes, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Are we worse at defending set pieces or attacking set pieces?
Great question. Neil?
Probably attacking, I'd say. I don't feel like we're a threat from set pieces. But maybe, now Dora's on them, it could all change.
It's not going to, though, is it?
Next.
Given the current positions of last season's fellow League 2 promoted teams, I think 2 of them were in the 2 places above us and 1 of them's below us. Are we doing as bad as Doommongers say we are? Early days, but based on what you've seen so far, can we realistically expect anything better than 8th place?
September.
I was going to say, it's not as well as early September. We're not even at the
Why is 8
the
cut-off? What's I don't know. People expecting us to answer these questions this week. They've been bitterly disappointed because we're not doing a good job of it. No, I don't. You know me. I don't believe in setting limits on things. We're 4 points off players at this point. We won a couple of games in a row. Suddenly we believe in ourselves. Suddenly you can go in a run, or you lose a couple. And everything's all up for grabs at the moment. So I wouldn't want to set any limits at this point.
I think let's string together a few games where there aren't players making their debut and make a judgment then.
Okay. Why is Carl Robinson such a bitter, twisted, and resentful man?
In his defence, Jordan Shipley, if that was like, come on, what's going on? I agree, he most likely is, but I think he has a few reasons. If that was the other way around and that was someone coming to the Rico and playing like that against us, you'd be a little bit pissed off with him.
Yeah, he also looks like Paul Hollywood staring at the sun.
Yeah.
Two more. In the absence of the return of Going for Gold or Only Correct, how about an occasional series such as Snog, Marry, Avoid with regards to ex-COD players? For starters, left backs, Danny Fox, David Burrows or Marcus Hall.
Oh, wow. Danny Fox, David Burrows.
David Burrows and Mark. I don't think I'd want to marry Danny Fox. I think I'd avoid Danny Fox.
Oh,
I think
no,
we all know.
You give him a pinch, wouldn't you? He's a dish.
Yeah, he's a dish. I'd snog Danny Fox. I get the impression that he's absolutely mental, isn't he? But
I think it'd break my heart if I kissed him.
No, a little one night stand with Danny Fox wouldn't do anyone any harm.
I'd marry Marcus Hall. I think Marcus Hall would put the dishwasher on.
Yeah, my sister went out for dinner and sent me photos of Marcus Hall, who was sat at the table next to her this week. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd marry Marcus, I suppose, and I'd avoid David Burrows.
Yeah, I'd avoid David Burrows too. I don't trust
that. My favourite question of the week was asked by me. If Johnson Clark Harris falls down in a wood and there's no one there to witness it, would yesterday's referee still award a free kick?
That is the best question.
Yeah, that's it. That's enjoyable.
Okay, that was the questions this week.
There you go. Okay, brilliant. Have we got anything?
I'm not as good at doing that as you are.
No, it was fabulous. In fact, you're not as dismissive as I am, to be fair, which I think is probably better. Anything we need to plug? Anything that anybody needs to get off their chest before we wrap things up?
No, looking forward to the Arsenal game. Come on, you Sky Blues.
Is that this week? Is that midweek?
Wednesday?
That's one of those games I'm ignoring actually happens.
Absolutely not acknowledging the existence of that.
What
game.
Stadium is it being played at? Is it at home? Is it at home?
Yeah.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah.
So if you want to see Oxford Stars in 5 years' time, go and watch Coventry versus Arsenal tomorrow night.
Well, yeah. And yeah. Okay, I think that's everything then, isn't it? Thank you, Paul.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Bye.